Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call to order it is still March 5th, barely, meeting of the Building and Zoning Committee. It is 9:47 p.m. We have a fairly hefty agenda, so we'll get right into it. Zoning Hearing Board agenda for March 10th of 2025. It's my understanding, Mr. Sekawungu, that item A is continued. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we're going to skip over that one and we'll get to item 1B, which is appeal number 25-3783. The House of Magic Enterprises, LLC for 101 South Easton Road. Welcome, Mr. D'Souza. Nice to see you. And we're going to start off with Mr. Sekawungu for a brief overview, and then Mr. D'Souza will have you make a few comments as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a property located at the corner of Glenside and Southeastern Road. It's being readaptively used, was a bank, and it's being proposed for a House of Magic, which would be an entertainment facility. As part of that proposal, they're looking to have an LED marquee sign. For this type of use, marquee signs are permitted. Unfortunately, they're not permitted as LED signs, so he's seeking relief from the Zoning Hearing Board to allow for that. Additionally, they're proposing some drapes at the for the windows. Window signs are limited to 20% of coverage. They're looking to have 100% coverage over the windows. So I'll turn it over to Mr. D'Souza to go over what he's proposing.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. As Mr. Sekawungu said, we are building the House of Magic, which incorporates a 100-seat theater within it, as well as various other entertainment facilities and a museum, a magic museum with study center and, possibilities of some really good educational facilities within that. As Mr. Sekawungu also said, the theater marquees are permitted. Nowadays, theater marquees are done as LED signs. That's the way things are done. They no longer have the boards where you put up the individual letters every time you change a show. And given the location that we're in, that it's a very commercial space, the size of the LED sign is pretty limited. It's 44 inches by 72 inches. It is set right up against the building, right up against the facade, right over the entry door. And it's not going to have a tremendous amount of negative visual impact within the community. We're proposing to have a sign that would the image would change about every 30 to 45 seconds. We're looking to use just text and photographs. We're not seeking to use moving images, video images. We would be shutting the sign off after business hours, so it would not be on all night. The other thing that Mr. Sekawungu mentioned are the pieces that we're looking to put in the window. These are not signs. They don't advertise anything. These are merely historic reproductions of historic magic posters from what we call the Golden Age of Magic back in the early 1900s. And they're famous magicians, and they're beautiful pieces of artwork that capture the period. We felt this was far superior than people looking in those windows and just seeing black, because the theater itself will be having on the one side black curtains, on the other side the side that faces the parking lot or a private parking lot, that would be looking at a black wall. So we felt it would be far more attractive for the community to be looking at something that is a lot more visually appealing. And so we're proposing to have these reproduction signs done on vinyl, hang them within the space right behind the window that would not be attached to the window per se. We're going to have them. Our intent is to have them suspended from the drop ceiling above, right in the windows. It's not the full area because there is the main window and then there are two side pieces to each of those windows. We're just proposing putting it in the main portion of the window, so there will still be those windows to the side, which almost would frame them in, so to speak. And those are the variances we're requesting at this point.
Well, thank you, Mr. D'Souza. of course, this is in my ward, and Mr. D'Souza and I have had several conversations. When he first told me that he was going to bring a magic theater to Glenside, I had to scratch my head, honestly. But in speaking with him and seeing this project develop and hearing about it, and sort of frankly getting intoxicated by Mr. D'Souza's enthusiasm for this, I couldn't be more excited for the project per se than I just couldn't be more excited. So in terms of the request here, the tapestries, the images in the windows seem to me to be a no-brainer. They really are aesthetically pleasing, far better than the alternative, and frankly, really adds to the character of the building, of the project, and the community relations part of it. So I'm fully supportive of that. I was concerned actually that if there was no way to look in, maybe that could be a public safety issue, but the fact that there is space to be able to see in alongside those, I think, answers that question. On the electronic sign, I think, in fairness, my record on electronic signs is been pretty clear in the past. But I do think this is a unique situation that does call for an exception with the conditions that Mr. D'Souza had talked about. The marquee sign that's allowed, converting it from a traditional, suction cup sign to an electronic sign sort of makes sense here. I do want to ask one or two questions about it. I'm glad that there's not going to be any video, because I'd be concerned that there would be that video might be distracting for traffic and whatnot. The hours, Mr. D'Souza, you suggested it would go off outside of business hours, which I appreciate. I think is a really important component, but I just want to clarify, what would those business hours be? I assume a couple hours before the show, a couple hours, shortly thereafter the show, or how would that go?
We would like to keep it open, during the day. It's just at nighttime after closing hours of the theater, which normally a show that would say start at 8 o'clock would be over at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. So after 10 o'clock, that sign would be turned off.
And how about in the morning?
Well, we're open to discussion there, but I would say, 10 o'clock in the morning, we would put it on. So if we were to say it would be operational from 10 to 10, I think that would be a general rule of thumb that we'd be looking at.
Fair enough. That works for me. And then in terms of the brightness of the sign, does it have, like low, medium, and high? Or I'm not quite sure how that works.
I wish I knew the answer to that. I don't know the details of that. I did provide the information that was provided by the company that we'd be purchasing this from. We did provide that to the township to put into your package, and that information may very well be there.
Henry, do you have any insight on that?
It was part of the application, but I can't really. I mean, it's something that I wasn't able to decipher specifically in terms of the lumens or any of that.
I assume it would be compliant with our lighting ordinance and whatnot.
Yes, we would want to make sure that that's a condition of the approval by the zoning hearing board.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with those conditions and caveats, I think again this is a really exciting project, and certainly I'm going to open it up to other commissioners, but I intend to not only take no action but ask for a vote of support. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. I see Commissioner Cherico has his hand raised.
So, hi, Mark. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mark and I have spoken at length, and I recently got a tour of just last week got a tour of the building, and it's quite spectacular. I'm excited and thrilled. Um, I'm inclined to support this. I guess I have a couple questions about the monitor. So if I understand this correctly, Henry, maybe you can weigh in on this. Monitors, from what I can gather, these screens are not permitted in the commercial enhancement district, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And so what, and maybe this is a question for Ed Diazio or you, but what happens when if we approve this to, I don't know, H&R Block, who comes to us and says, we want to put a monitor in as well. Have we set a precedent that we can't roll back?
Well, again, the approval goes with the property or with the land. The zoning
Understood.
hearing board will be able to, again, you're making a recommendation. You're not technically approving, or you could put it that way, but you're making a recommendation to the zoning hearing board. They'll assess what is being presented and evaluate it based on what they have as part of the submission, and they'll make a decision and maybe consider conditions as part of that decision. But each application is reviewed based on its own merits.
Okay.
If I might
Jericho,
interject,
I'll add to that legally speaking, there is no precedential impact. There are times when others might use an exception in one case and try to equate their situation with a situation that the zoning hearing board previously granted. But from a strictly legal standpoint, each application stands on its own, is based on the unique circumstances of the case, and is based on the exact conditions that the zoning hearing board imposes, which always include consistency with the testimony at the hearing. So if there's testimony at the hearing regarding the hours of operation, regarding the content of the messaging, regarding how frequently the content changes, with the zoning hearing board's approval of, or potential approval of that request, all of the testimony gets incorporated as a condition.
Okay. And Mark, is this sign going to be animated or not?
no. It'll be text and photographs only. If I might, I would just add, keep in mind, this is a marquee. A marquee is only permitted for a theater. H&R Block would not be entitled to this type of relief in any case.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I had.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Jericho. Commissioner Rappaport.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I have to say, I think Cheltenham has long needed something unique in the way of entertainment. We've said that before. I certainly said that in another context. So this is terribly exciting. And thank you for coming to Cheltenham.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
I guess my question, again, along with the sign, the precedent, marquee or not marquee, I think we want a condition, perhaps, that that holds you to the no, not animated and that kind of thing. Because I think it also helps. We've had over the years other folks who have taken advantage of seeing something that they like to make an equivalence to, and that was alluded to. But that's the reasoning. I think that we want to make sure that it is for the theater, for this particular use. But along with that, magic, and I think of other possible kinds of signs, not your old-fashioned thing. I understand why that's ridiculous, maybe. But is there something else that could work that would be even more interesting, frankly, without it being your typical, I won't say typical, but without being this? Have you explored any other kind of marquee sign? And I don't know what's out there. I don't know what's available, but it would seem like there might be something really interesting I don't know. So I'm just throwing that out as a possibility.
We've looked at some other ways of handling this that have been done in the past. And again, these are things that were done in the past. There were rolling signs on motors where it would change the image periodically. And that you can't even buy that technology anymore because the current technology is these LED signs where the images can change it literally at will. You can program whatever you need or want in and have those images change because, you know, if we wanted just a static sign that said House of Magic, that'd be one thing. But we want to be able to advertise the events that are coming up, like, and that's the reason you have theater marquees and the box displays and windows, so it shows coming attractions. And that's what this sign would do. It's the name of the performer, the date, and a picture of the performer. That's basically what we're looking at.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rappaport. Commissioner Zieggenfeld.
Two questions, Mr. D'Souza. I noticed in a lot of the posters, some of those probably either have copyrights or owned by estates. So do you have the permission from those entities to be able to showcase? I love the signs and they're going to be in the windows and I think that's all terrific. But some of those are very famous magicians and very famous people in that discipline. And I'm wondering if that could create a problem for you.
We don't believe so. We believe the pictures, because of their age, are all in public domain at this point.
Okay.
And
The other question,
and that's how we acquired the images, by the way,
Okay.
through public domain.
okay. The other question I have is, are you an expert in the art of mesmerizing? Because you seem to have captured Commissioner Arman in particular in a way that's very uncharacteristic.
Well, I'm glad that we did, and I didn't make any special effort to do so, but we're hoping that this captures the enthusiasm and imagination of many people in the area.
It's very exciting, and I know he's an easy mark, but some of us are a little tougher.
Well, we hope to make you converts when you come.
Exactly. Thank you.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Maybe you can make Commissioner Zieggenfeld disappear. So
I always joke I can make anybody disappear for a price.
there you go. We'll talk later. With that,
Let's not
Mr.
vote
D'Souza-
on that one, Matt.
That's right. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. So I will move to support the application with the following conditions that were discussed: that the brightness of the marquee sign, and again, it is a marquee sign associated with the theater, is compliant with our light ordinance. The hours are 10 to 10, no video, and the image won't change any faster than 30 to 45 seconds at a clip. Any questions or comments on that motion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. D'Souza. We're really
Thank you very
excited
much.
for and April we're starting, yes?
The first show, we're supposed to open for the first show April 4th.
Very exciting. Thank you
We're
very much.
excited. Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
You also. Okay, everybody, on to item number 1C, appeal number 25-3784, Midgard Properties 3 LP for 827 Glenside Avenue. Mr. Sekawangu?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a property that's in the floodplain, and as part of the review process, it was highlighted to the town. It was brought to the township's attention by FEMA regarding storage containers that are in the floodplain, which is not a permitted use. We reached out to the property owner to eliminate those containers or seek relief from the zoning hearing board, and he's going before the zoning hearing board to try to seek relief to allow those containers to remain. I believe Mr. Dean is representing the applicant and can give us additional information on that.
But before you go, Mr. Dean, if I may, Mr. Sekawangu did does this matter involve citations of the property owner?
Yes, we've issued citations as well as part of the process,
Okay,
which triggered the zoning
fair enough.
request. Yes.
Mr. Dean, do you want to give us
Yes.
some highlights?
Sure. Good evening, Christopher Dean. I'm representing Midgard Properties, and Jeff Lustig, who is the principal of Midgard, is here as well. Tough to follow the magic guy, but I'll try. I actually do if I could share my screen just to put up the shipping containers for visual?
Yeah, but we're going to move through it fairly quickly,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
All right. Well, in that case, then what I'll do is highlight these. So my client, shortly after purchasing the property, he met with then the former fire marshal Joe O'Neill. They went over their emergency weather event plan that did include putting shipping containers. My client uses these shipping containers solely for weather events. Some of what's being used is you have flood panel system for all the exterior doors in the complex. You have sandbags, heavy gauge rolls of plastic and bags of crushed stone. Hand trucks, dollies, snow removal equipment. One of the concerns was meeting with the planning commission was fastening the shipping containers to, how are we going to fasten them? My client did meet with an engineer last week, and he intends to install concrete pylons in the ground and stainless steel hooks and cabling so they can strap all together. I believe there are 3 shipping containers at this time. The shipping containers are critical to the function of the complex as a whole. It takes 2 to 3 hours to deploy in a weather event. If they are elsewhere, it could be a disaster for the complex. And it's something that he has been using as such for 10 years. And it was tacitly approved when he did. It was mentioned when he did. The first shipping container came in 2015, and he's been using it as such. So when we met with the planning committee, we were okay with the proviso that this either has to be raised or fastened, and my client did meet with the engineer. We're also here as part of our variance between the zoning hearing board next week. There is a CrossFit gym that also is we also are seeking zoning relief for. The reason that my client was cited for that was the designation. They considered the CrossFit gym, which is in a 4,700 square foot area. They considered it as a F2 use district, which is more like an LA Fitness, bigger scale gyms, saunas. Some have pools. The CrossFit gym is actually a dance studio and a yoga studio are permitted uses, and this CrossFit gym is only 5 to 7 people at a time. It's only classes. There's already a rock gym that's actually bigger and has a weight room that's an approved use in the building. So we were asking for zoning relief to legalize the already existing CrossFit gym at the property due to its I don't want to say mischaracterization. It is a gym, but it is more in function like a boutique fitness gym than an athletic club.
Okay. Just a couple of questions, not so much about the CrossFit gym, but about the shipping container. So in terms of the equipment that's inside, that was a helpful description for me anyway. So that it is essentially, as I understand it, equipment meant to be used in the event of a weather situation that that strikes this area because it's in the flood zone, right? So
yes,
the irony is not lost on me. But that being said, is the intention of your client to only utilize it for those purposes, and is that something you would be willing to commit to as part of this application?
We would, and actually I neglected to mention that was one of the other provisos we discussed last week, that we would limit this usage strictly to a weather event or some other related language. But that's its current use, and that's what it's intended to be used for.
Okay, and in terms of the improvements on these units to secure them to the ground, what would the time frame be for accomplishing that?
Jeff, you want
I'll take
to
that.
opine?
I would probably say we would need like 3 or 4 weeks for plans, and then it would have to go to the township for a plan review, and then I would start putting it out to bid to contractors. What we're proposing is pretty much what they explained to me is a concrete pylon, sort of like what you see in a shopping center where a light post is mounted to. So it'd be the same kind of post, 4 of them, 2 on each side, and then cables going over from one side to the other, strapping them. So I would think we can get the plans done in 3-4 weeks. It seems the economy is slowing down and the engineers, at least my engineers, aren't that busy.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Dean, Mr. Lustig. Any
Thank you.
other? Oh, well, I'm sorry. It looks like Mr. Sekwongo has something to add, and then I'll turn it over to other board members.
Yes, thank you. Again, I'm not trying to prolong this process, but I just want to make sure we, that there's certain factual information that you are aware of as part of this process. So on my screen, I know the gentleman mentioned that this has been in place for 10 years, but I do have a screen share right now. This is as of October 17th, 2024, you can see the containers right there. And this is as of 2018. And just scrolling through this, it shows different pictures showing different elements of use at that location. This is 2020, 2020, 2020, 2021. So again, we have some concerns specific to the legality of the use of those containers specifically for storage of flood gates. It appears there may also be another business that's been run through this property at the same time. Additionally, as part of the variance request, for the containers to remain at this location, there may be other mitigating factors that would need to be considered to ensure, in case of a rain event or a flood event, their openings are in the containers to allow for water to flow through. So just wanted to highlight those items as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Chirko.
So are we saying that it is not the case that these shipping containers have been here for 10 years?
Or being used solely for weather support materials?
Are you asking me? No, they've been there. They haven't been there. We in our last meeting, we talked about reducing them down to 3 across. What you see on the left in 2023, the 2 containers in the back. Now go to the next. Yep, right there. They're gone. There's nothing there now. And what you see in 2024, those blue containers aren't there either. What is there right now is just the containers behind the boiler house, which are kind of stuffed in back there.
But this is not going back 10 years as testified.
They started coming in 2015.
And
when Joe and I decided that we needed to bring them in with a crane. Yeah.
And as part of our application, we did submit a document dated November of 2015 when Jeff, when my client had met with the fire marshal then, and the weather event plan did indicate usage of shipping containers back in 2015.
So where would the shipping containers been in these pictures from 2016 and 2017?
Look at myself. Go back to 2015.
That's 2015 right there.
Yeah, that's when I thought we had them delivered, because that's when we started putting in the floodgates. So maybe it's 10 years ago.
Well, it probably would have been November.
So,
Mr. Sekwongo, what was the well, actually, let me ask this first. Mr. Dean or Mr. Lustig, it appears in these photographs that the containers sort of come and go. Do you have an explanation as to why they may be coming and going on this location over the course of time?
The blue ones were, so trying to look at the years. So we've done a lot of developments. We did Roberts Block where we used storage containers for kitchen equipment, but we did that at the same time as 2015. My other guess would be we did the human robot building and we stored all the material for the human robot building while we were building that facility. And containers came in from overseas and were dropped and were moved away during those times. I don't really know, been doing this for 20 years. I don't really know the timeline, but that would be my.
And I think we would, since you did mention other projects, again, we'd be the proviso that this is solely for weather events for Winco Commons, would be acceptable.
Okay. Mr. Sekawong, did the planning commission have a recommendation?
They more or less made a recommendation to ensure that other flood mitigation factors came into play, as required by the ordinance and also as part of the building code requirements. So, the pylons, as he mentioned, as was mentioned, but also some kind of mitigation that allows water flow so that these containers are not washed away in case of a major event. Usually you provide openings or vents that allow water to flow through them.
Mr. Dean or Mr. Lustig, is that something you're
Yeah, that was
amenable
something
to?
that I don't know Carl's last name, but it was a good idea. They're pretty much called flood vents, and I believe they're somewhere around 12 to 16 inches wide and maybe 6 to 8 inches, and they would be cut in the bottom of the containers, and they would allow the water pass through just like you would at a beach house if you were in the flood.
I get it. And that is something you're willing to do?
That's easy. Yeah, I mean that's really easy.
Yeah, that would also be subject to building approval, because as part of the International Building Code, there's certain requirements in terms of structures being put in a floodplain. So the township staff would have to review that for approval as well.
Okay, and they would be able to tell me how many per square foot or how many per linear foot.
Yes.
So let me just make sure we're getting all this. So it's 3 containers. They're going to be secured. They're going to have they're going to be equipped for dealing with water flow, and they're only going to be used for weather related equipment for the property at 827 Glenside Avenue.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
The whole gate system is custom to the property. It was built in Florida, custom to the property.
Okay. Commissioner Rappaport.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. I think you just said a moment ago that some of them have also been used for storage from other projects, from other locations. So that seems to be a violation, but what I'm not sure also is, are there other violations currently on at the property, like the things that are being stored across the street in that parking lot? From time to time, that has been a recurring issue. And I don't know if Mr. Sekawongu knows that, or if somebody else knows if they're currently in compliance with other requirements.
I'll take that one. I know that the owners have been working with Al on this, and the parking lot across the street, as it appears, definitely has things in there that are not supposed to be in there under the building and under the zoning code. So I believe Al's working with the owner, who's been very cooperative in rectifying that.
Okay. And because usually when there are outstanding violations on things, that kind of changes our approach. What usually the recommendation might be no action, but certainly accounting for the conditions that have been mentioned, but also making sure that the violations are taken care of.
Yeah,
and remain taken care of, not changed when it becomes convenient to change them. So I think that's a concern, and I'm not quite sure how that's going to get resolved.
I think the challenge too, I suppose, is that the current application is specific to this parcel number, parcel ID. I don't have the specifics, specific to 827 Glenside Avenue. The other is a different parcel, albeit under the same ownership. So again, they may be contiguous, across the street from each other, but the specific application is related to a parcel that has an address of 827 Glenside Avenue.
Okay, well, certainly the if we're going to give any kind of support to such an application, I think it's not unreasonable to expect the management to be in compliance with its properties, especially when they come under that address. All right, I had some other questions, but I'm sort of stuck on that one for a while. Why don't we go ahead to Commissioner Cherico?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rappaport. Commissioner Cherico.
So my comment or question have to do with the CrossFit gym. So I can wait if we want to wrap up.
Go ahead, it's fine.
Okay. So Mr. Lustig, I appreciate the complex that you've created there at Wyncote Commons. I think it's an excellent addition to our community, having the jiu-jitsu and the dance, the rock climbing, and the CrossFit gym, and everything else. I am a member of the CrossFit gym. I love going there, and I love what you've done there. My concern, and I obviously will support. I'm going to support the or approve or give my no action, whatever, for the issue surrounding the CrossFit gym. I guess my question for you is, how did it even get to the point that we're here today, that John Mears spent, I don't even know, gobs of money putting in a CrossFit gym into that building? And perhaps it's his responsibility, or perhaps it's yours, to have advised him that it doesn't necessarily meet the code, or that he needs to get some sort of clearance from the township. And that has bothered me for about a year now. And so when you come to this board and you're asking for approval for things, I ask you to be mindful as well, that when you have someone coming into your building, that you advise them appropriately to make sure that the use meets what we've set forth, what the township has set forth for your building. And that really has concerned me, because if we don't approve this, John Mears is out a ton of money, and that really bothers me.
No, I agree, Jeff. I mean, the disconnect with me was thinking that we had a fencing academy there with a gym, and a rock climbing with a gym, that this was the perfect fit, and not realizing that, talking to the township manager, that I guess in 2018 they changed the zoning. So the ball dropped, never thought to think twice that it wouldn't be an approved use.
I hope moving forward, new tenants are advised to make sure that they get their ducks in a row with the zoning department before they sign a lease or allow them to spend money that like John did.
And Jeff, to add to that, not to speak for Jeff, but I've spoken with Jeff about, if you have prospective tenants, run it by me so we can look at the code to see what is allowed. Just don't assume that because the rock climbing gym had a weight room and that was permitted use, that something similar might be permitted.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Dean and Mr. Lustig.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Brockington.
I just wanted to hear from my fire marshal on this. Scott, I know you jumped in and made a couple comments, but I really would like to hear your take on this.
So my take on this is this with the Commons and a couple of the other places there in the area, we're running this all the time where the landlords are just, they're renting out to people with the expectation like, oh yeah, well, this was here before, it can go now, and not checking. We drive by and see new business and we go in there and we're like, hey, you have no approvals. So then it's affecting the business because we're essentially not allowing them to operate until they go through all approvals. So essentially we're shutting them down until the approvals. And it's not that the building's not safe or anything like that. I mean, the building, that it's structurally sound and everything like that. It's just, just trying to do the best we can with this. But we do run into this a lot with, oh, this was here before, I could just enter it again.
Thank you, Scott. Commissioner Brockington, anything additional? You're good. Okay. We have a citizen, Ted Serby. I'm gonna let you weigh in, but please make it quick. We're getting on in time, and I think we're ready for a motion probably here.
Appreciate it. Just Ted Serby, Wincoat. Just a comment in general, considering what happened at the SPS factory, could you write into the agreement that no hazardous materials will be stored in these containers? Thank you.
Yeah, that's an excellent comment, and I appreciate. See, the wisdom of me letting you speak was. I'm joking. No, great comment. In fact, I had actually thought, Mr. Dean and Mr. Lustig, I assume because you're willing to limit the use of these to the equipment and materials that you described, I assume you would not be opposed to allowing the township to inspect these containers as determined by our code enforcement staff.
Yep, that's fine.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we have a number of conditions that have been agreed to. So with those conditions, and if you want, Mr. Diazio, I'm sure you got them all down. I think it has to do with limiting the containers to 3, limiting the materials that may be in them, ensuring that they are satisfactorily equipped to deal with water, and that they don't contain hazardous materials, and that they're subject to inspection. And we're not going beyond 3. We're not moving them in and out, and they'll be strapped down. And I think that's all the everything we talked about. Then
other violations. Let's keep that under control.
Yeah, that would be helpful too, Mr. Lustig. So with that, I'll make a motion for no action on this, and I'd appreciate, Mr. Diazio, if you would communicate to the zoning hearing board the conditions that have been agreed to at this meeting.
Yeah, if you, Commissioner Arman, if you could, if we could ask the applicant to agree here at the public meeting on the record that those conditions are agreeable, I'd appreciate having that in the public record.
Jeff, just to confirm, you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, could I just
Please, Commissioner Rappaport.
want to add what Mr. Sekawungu brought to our attention? I think the coming and going and the lack of, I think it left a bad taste in the mouths of those of us who saw the contradictions there. Yep. And the denial of what kinds of trailers and stuff were back there and how they were being used. So somehow I think, just guarantee also a condition that kind of musical musical
shipping
materials
container? Yeah.
won't be going on.
Well, Commissioner Rappaport, I fully expect that the Township Planning and Zoning Department will be regularly inspecting. So we'll be
So that'll carry.
taking care of it that way.
All right, thank you.
I do have one quick question. Does those inspections have to be announced or can they be unannounced?
Well, they're inspections at the discretion of the township. So
Okay.
whenever the township reasonably asks for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So with those, we have a motion with those conditions are going to be communicated to the zoning hearing board. Appreciate Mr. Lustig and Mr. Dean, your cooperation in that regard. I'll take a vote on my motion for no action. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Item number 2, these are the zoning hearing board decisions, and normally I go through them one by one, but if you'll all indulge me, I'm just going to take them all at once, and if there are comments or questions on anyone in particular, we could discuss them. Commissioner Rappaport.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with them, except that one of them talked about filing the deeds in Bucks County.
No.
And
Filing.
in fact, it was the Kinsman on Church Road, the B. And it, as I say, it spoke to filing the deeds in Bucks County.
I can bring that to the attention of the zoning solicitor, Commissioner Rappaport.
Okay.
Which
Thank
one
you.
was it again?
B, the Kinsman Corporation for
It's a condition number 3.
347 to
Yeah.
349 Church.
Yeah, Henry's adding something there.
Condition number 3 of the order 24-3779.
In the past, when there have been like a typo or an error in the decision, the zoning hearing board will reissue the corrected decision.
Okay. So, Mr. Diazio, do we take a vote on that one as well to take no action, or do we?
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Okay. So on all 4, no action, with the understanding that Mr. Diazio is going to communicate to the solicitor to correct that typographical error in appeal number 24-3779. So all those in favor of taking no action other than what I just described, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Dispose of the zoning hearing board decisions. On to item number 3, receipt of the monthly citizens committee meeting minutes. The planning commission met on February 24th, 2025. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, I'll move for acceptance. All those in favor say aye.
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 Item 3B, Board of Historical and Architectural Review met on February 20th, 2025. We have 2 items to consider. Number 3B1, consider approval of a certificate of appropriateness for application W25-341 of Caitlin Health, owner for the property of 406 Greenwood Avenue in Wyncote, for the addition of a 6-foot tall wood privacy fence in the side and rear yards and the replacement of existing metal and wire fencing in the side and rear yards with a 6-foot tall wood privacy fence. Mr. Sekawangu.
Yeah, this is in Ward 4. It's just a recommendation on a certificate of appropriateness.
Okay. Commissioner Rappaport.
Yeah, I was confused because the is it the Bahar or the Bahar had talked to the visibility of the fence from the front, and they wanted it back further from the street. Those were the conditions, and to return with photos. Are those conditions coming along with that recommendation?
Yes. Again, the recommendation was for them to push the fence farther back, which the applicant agreed to do
Okay.
as part of the as part of that
And they're gonna
recommendation.
come back with photos.
They did
They
already,
were-
and that's
they
why
did
we have
already.
it on the
Oh, good.
agenda. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, then, with all that said, I would recommend.
Okay, so we have a
Approve.
motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank
Thank
you. Item 3B2, consider approval of a certificate of appropriateness for application L25-342 of VH Service LLC, contractor for the new tenants of 1355 West Cheltenham Avenue in Elkins Park for the replacement of the former tenant's signage with the new tenant signage. Commissioner Ziegenfeld, I'm just going to have Henry weigh in, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Yes, this is in Ward 3 again. It's refacing of a sign with a new sign. This is a new business that's coming into the township, and I believe Commissioner Ziegman-Feld has some familiarity with that.
Okay, Commissioner
May
Ziegenfeld,
I?
please.
Thank you, Henry. The organization is the Korean American Association of Greater Philadelphia. The person who is behind it owns that building, but this is an organization that is really trying to get more engaged in Cheltenham. We have a significant Korean community. The region has approximately 90,000 Korean residents, and there are a significant number of Korean businesses, some of which potentially could include bringing in, for instance, the new Korean consul of Philadelphia. There is the Kanwa shipyard that's taken over the large shipyards and is interested in doing some things in Cheltenham. So the reason why I'm really excited about this is they're looking to find ways to invest and make Cheltenham, rather than Philadelphia, a central terminus for a lot of the business and community and cultural organizations that have a Korean affiliation. So the sign really is just this a new version of the Korean American Association of Greater Philadelphia, but there's a commitment to this area that I think has the potential to be very exciting.
Thank you, Commissioner Ziegenfeld.
Thank you.
Cheltenham Shipworks sounds great. I like it.
Well, I don't know how big we can launch on Tookenny Creek.
That's right. I believe Henry said this is in Ward 3. Commissioner Sherrico, do you have anything to add, or
No.
you want to make a motion?
Sure. Motion for what? No action? Is that what we
No,
said?
to approve the certificate of appropriateness.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Approve, yeah.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank
Aye.
you.
All right. Thank you all. Item number 4, receipt of the planning and zoning monthly reports for February 2025. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll move for acceptance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item number 5, report of the building inspector for February 2025. Comments or questions there? All right, I'll move for acceptance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 6, report of the code administrator for February 2025. Comments or questions? I'll move for acceptance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to old business. So this is, excuse me, an opportunity for us to review and consider recommending the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 295, zoning, Section 405, categories of permitted uses regarding accessory solar systems and personal care businesses. There's a number of sections regarding permitted uses with respect to personal care businesses and parking, general parking regulations and yard regulations. As many of you may recall, this item was on our building and zoning agenda in January, which took place, I think, on January 6th for publication, as our ordinances are required to be publicized for 60 days, I believe. It was addressed on January 6th. It was subsequently addressed at the legislative meeting in January and was planning to come before the board this March. In the interim, we've received some feedback from residents, from from our EAC, and from others. Fire Marshal Lynch has also, as I understand it, reviewed the ordinance and has some comments and recommendations for the board to consider. So I will turn it over to Fire Marshal Lynch for a moment or two to provide us some updates and his thinking.
Okay, let's go with the 3-minute rule, and I hope I can get it done in that.
There you go.
So, we reviewed the feedback from the Planning Commission, the county, the EAC, okay, and some more thoughtful thinking. Made some additional revisions. I met with Allison, and we put this together, and it would be our recommendation that we send the revisions back to the Planning Commission, back to the AC, and we go with the process of making the revisions, and then we'll go with the re-advertising and bring it before the legislative session at a later date.
Okay. So that I appreciate that, Scott. You know, these things, these ordinances are hard, right? You know, you take a crack at them, and you know, that's what this process is all about, right? You advertise,
Absolutely.
you give folks an opportunity to provide feedback. You look at the feedback, you analyze it. And sometimes it's not the prettiest process, but it really is a good process. So, Scott, I really appreciate your work on this. I would appreciate if you would circulate the revised version to the board, and then do what you just described, and work with the Planning Commission, the EAC, the county, so everybody has eyes on it. Now, this does not mean that everyone's guaranteed to be happy with the result, but certainly this is how we get the best possible product, you know, before the board to make really informed decisions to do the best that we possibly can. So with that, do we need a vote, Ed, on this?
No, if you take no action, it simply will not move forward to the legislative meeting for now. And
okay,
Scott can do what he's planning to do.
Fair enough. And we look forward to seeing this version and the final version that's going to get re-advertised at some point in the near future. And thank everybody for their hard work on this one. All right. Is there any other old business for building and zoning? All right, seeing none. New business? Okay, how about citizens forum? We do have a few citizens left. Yes, Miss Russell.
I found my chat, my raised hand, and then I lost it again. I'm sorry about that.
The manual raised hand is just as good.
So I want to really thank everybody for this result. I was one of the people who raised questions about the ordinance, and one of my points was going to be that it's a really tough job that the commissioners have to balance all the competing and important issues, and clearly firefighter safety is of paramount importance, and I don't quibble with that in the least. And their effectiveness in fighting fires also is of paramount importance. But we also have a lot of sustainability goals. And since you've already agreed to move this on, I'm not going to go into my whole spiel that I had prepared. But I think this is wonderful, and I very much appreciate the fact that the commissioners and the fire marshal took these considerations in mind and are going to move forward. And I agree, this is the best way. This is why you have public comment. This is why you advertise things, and you advertised it, and I saw it, and we, things move forward. So I want to thank everybody for all their hard work and for their open minds.
Thank you, Ms. Russell, and thank you for your feedback. I think it was certainly helpful in getting to this point. So thank you. Mr. Platt.
Yeah, thank you. I want to second Mary's sentiment and appreciate her input, and appreciate the commissioners, all the time they put into this. Scott, what you're trying to do is appreciated, And thank you for being flexible and looking into this, all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Plow. Anyone else for Citizens Forum? Okay. Well, we'll close Citizens Forum and I will move for adjournment at 10:47 p.m.
Good job.
Late
All right.
night, everybody,
Aye.
but a good one.
night.
Aye. Thank
Good
you.
night.